Hey there, welcome to the REI Conversion Podcast, where each episode we discuss strategies and digital tools to help you launch, automate, and scale your real estate investing business. Learn how to run your investing business remotely, find out ways to automate your business to better utilize your time, and learn what other successful investors are implementing so you can get to the next step closer to your investing goals. And I'm your host and founder of REI Conversion, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the REI Conversion Podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest with me. His name is Travis King, a seven-figure land investor. And today, we're going to talk about goal setting. It hasn't always been seven figures for him, and how did he get there to become a seven-figure land investor? We're going to talk about, again, goal setting, and really a lot of it also we're talking about getting started and taking action, and we're actually going to dive a little bit into the mailing side of things as well. Travis is also one of our early users inside of REI Pebble. He has been an awesome member in there and now is also one of our community leaders who help out explaining and answering questions when it comes to acquisitions and mailings. So, this podcast is brought to you by REI Conversion. If you're looking for systems to help you scale, you'll want to definitely check out REI Pebble. Like Travis, it's now become one of his core systems that he uses and he has used in order to cut down on his entire tech stack. So he's now able to use less software and focus on the ones that really make a huge difference for his business. With Pebble, you can automate sending mailers, track buyer and seller leads, generate documents in seconds, manage your team, and really streamline your entire process. It's what we say that Pebble really becomes your one source of truth for your entire data. So whether it's your due diligence to even your images, everything lives on the cloud inside of Pebble to really assist you for the entire deal flow of land investing. So you can check out Pebble by just going to reiconversion.com and going to Pebble, or if you head over to straight over to pebblerei.com as well, you can start your free trial today and actually get mailers out the door using our bulk mailing rates during that free trial. So give that a shot. Thank you again for joining me for this episode. Get ready for this awesome chat I had with Travis as he shares his thoughts on thinking big and taking action. Cheers. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the REI Conversion Podcast. Today, as I mentioned, I have Travis King with us here today. Travis, how's it going?
Good, Jesse. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show again here. Travis, we've been, you use REI Conversion website, and you're also one of our very first early users of Pebble, and you're one of those guys that sort of lay quiet, but are doing massive business in the background, keeping busy with the business essentially. And one of the things that obviously is an eye opener or really catches people's attention is the fact that you do very high volume in terms of land, in terms of figure at least. And let's just start off with that. Let's just hit it off with that question. Actually, before we even get to that, why don't you share with us how'd you get into land investing?
Yeah, well, actually, ironically, listening to podcasts, right? It's kind of where it all started several years ago. Like a lot of people, right? Working your day job and trying to find that outside that, that side hustle or that second stream of income, and my wife and I dabbled in houses and rentals, and that builds net worth, right? But houses per door don't spit off a lot of cash if you're buying one at a time, right? So our goal was to build up, at the time I just had very, very small goals, right? A couple $1,000s a month of side income to play with. And so I was listening to podcasts, a Bigger Pockets podcast, and it actually had heard Seth Williams give an interview on there and talking about land investing. And, the business model really resonated. He just seemed really relatable, really authentic. So I kind of all started with the genesis of it was kind of listening to his podcast and then going on the RE Tipster website, consuming all the free content, and then, just kind of took it from there,
Went down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, down course after course, trying to learn everything I could and then put them all together and, get started. But so it started with podcasts and consuming content and just learning and then finally, finally taking action, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I guess we both have to thank Seth. Here's another shout out for you, Seth, over at RE Tipster. Seth is just an awesome person in general, and he also got me started in land investing.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We met not because of land for digital. I come from a digital background, and I was talking
Yeah.
to him stuff. I didn't know he ran a major blog, and that's how I got started with land as well. So there you go, Seth.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Great guy.
so now today, let's fast forward to today. Now you are doing 7 figures in land. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And I mean, it didn't start out like that, definitely in the first year or two. And, people say, well, how do you get to this point, or how do you do that? And well, actually, it's pretty easy. If you come into the business, it's a couple $100,000 saved, which some people do. I've come
Yep.
across and have contacts. Some people, stack money, come into it, and they're just looking and waiting for, a business model and opportunity. And boy, they can achieve this in no time, right? Because you're starting with that. Unfortunately, my wife and I were in a little different scenario where I had $4,500 to play with, right, in a savings account,
Wow.
and anything beyond that, you know what I mean, was off limits for, right. So I had to start very small, with cheap desert properties, right. And the good thing about that, I think, is that I was so concerned with losing money initially on a deal, that I really lowball offered everything, and I just took very little risk,
Right.
And what came out of that was, doing a lot of small deals, and with high ROI, not huge return,
Yeah.
huge margin, but high ROA, and really just the kind of the mastery comes through frequency, right? So, you do a dozen, 2 dozen transactions, and then you start to get pretty comfortable.
Right.
Whether you're talking to a seller that on a property you're going to capture $100,000 equity, or talking to a seller that you're going to make $2,000 on this flip, right? It still gets you more comfortable with, talking on the phone, negotiating, interacting, kind of, um, just getting brilliant at those basics, right, before you're able to move your way up. And so we really just one deal at a time, one small deal at a time. And we put all the money back in. We didn't do any owner draws or pull anything out. I think that was key,
Right.
right? Was early on. So there's a little bit of luck involved too, right? So at the same time, it was just I stumbled across the 10X book, right, by Grant Cardone at a perfect time when I was just starting this business, and I kind of bought into that mindset initially of just massive action and just throwing lots of hours at the business, and then not cannibalizing it, not taking any owner pay out of it, pushing all that right back into purchasing more properties, doing more deals, and then really just streamlining things, getting a process down, an area, a county you're familiar with, a subdivision within a county, so that it becomes a wash, rinse, repeat thing, So after we got enough transactions under our belt and built up enough cash, right, then you can, when you're doing a lot of volume, just there, you find some quality within the quantity, right, when you're mailing, and some bigger deals come out of that. And all it takes is one or two, doubles or triples to
Yeah.
get you that operating capital you need to kind of build. When you're starting a pretty small snowball, it takes a while to build it up, and we
Yep.
were, right. But then as it gets bigger and bigger, you've kind of got that momentum going.
So let me take it a bit back here. You mentioned you started off with 4,500, and was it I mean, did you have it as your part of your goal to be like, yeah, I'm gonna reach 7 figures? What was in your mind, and when did you sort of start coming into the mindset, hey, I want to start, goal setting and planning for these kind of things?
You know, Early on, it honestly was just kind of like, I just want to build up, 2,500 a month or something cash on the side, so that if I want to take wife to a steakhouse, want to take the kids to Disneyland, I'm not playing with our money, right? You know what I mean? It was really small goals initially. And I've kind of got that obsessive personality where once it started to work, I couldn't do it halfway, right? I had to go all in. And then the other part of it was I'm fortunate because with my wife has a background in the mortgage industry, right? And of both of us, she is the planner. I'm kind of the visionary, right? I like to start things, get them 80% done, and then walk away. she's a planner and she's a finisher. And if anybody knows, if you're married, your wife will hold you accountable. So if you're also running a business together, right? And we did this together. She's really key to that. Like me early on, kind of coming into this, having not owned other businesses, having a lot of limiting beliefs and setting small goals. And, she's kind of key in going like, 1,000 a month, why not 10,000? And you go, well, I guess you kind of want proof of concept at first.
Yeah.
And now I think with, several educators out there, maybe a dozen or half dozen, at least Facebook groups. And I think people know the business model's validated now. It wasn't as mature of a business model, or there wasn't as many people, touting it at the time. So I was really, kind of got stuck in that education phase and not taking action because I was like, I just don't want to spend a lot of money on this if it isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Right. But so I think I had confidence after a couple of deals and proof of concept, then you go, well, why not go bigger? Why not do more? And then, and then I really got into the goal setting and planning. And we both have a vision board daily. I have a daily planner, right? Where after we sold our first property terms, we're getting $150 a month. Our first payment was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm writing down in my daily planner every day, we make $10,000 a month in terms income. Our business makes $250,000 a year. And it was just kind of like every day. Every morning I'd wake up, get up real early, get up 4:45, sit down and write that down and write it out. And it seems a little silly, right? I'm like, but then sit down and take the actions within the daily planner, right? Not just wish it or dream it, but take those actions. Okay, well, got to get some mail out, got to call people back if I'm ever going to achieve these goals. But I think it helped me having my wife involved in the business too, because that really was my accountability partner and my cheerleader, right? Like we were, I didn't want to start it and it not work and kind of fail, right, in her eyes. So, and having her help, I think that was, probably accelerated the success anyway.
One of the things you mentioned here, I know it's a little bit on the woo-woo side, but if you want to get stuff done and you want to achieve some stuff, you got to write that down. I do that too. I also got something beside me here called the 5-minute journal as well. But you've got to write these things down if you're looking to kind of go somewhere and solidify it in your head and keep telling yourself you will get there. Again, I know it's a bit woo-woo for some of you guys, but I'm a true believer in that. Now, let's come back to goal setting. What does goal setting actually look like for you? Let's talk. Do you have something that is more on the number side? Is it more on the making statements and putting it out there, or what does goal setting look like for you right now? Let's say on a regular basis. What does that typically look like?
Yeah, so it's very much numbers, right? So we have our own personal goals, right, and then business goals. And as far as business goals, yeah, it's very much just based on the numbers, starting with the end goal, right? The net or gross revenue, whatever per year, and then breaking that down and going, okay, if I want to make 500,000 right net this year, then that would mean you just throw it on Excel or Google Sheet or something, right? I want to make this much a year. What's my target net per transaction? If I make it $20,000 a deal, then I'm going to need to do this many 24 transactions or 40 transactions a year, which that works out to this many per month or this many per quarter, down to weekly. So you can kind of hold yourself accountable weekly and monthly, but like any big goal, right? I think you create a timeline and then you chop it up and you segment it into much smaller bite-sized milestones along the way. And that's key to us. And that's also how if you're, you're on track or not, right? If you're hitting that first quarter and you're way behind, you've got to make some adjustments.
Yep.
And the other thing is you got to be comfortable with not reaching your goals if you set big goals. I have kind of early on, I had a tendency to set goals I could achieve because I liked that euphoria of achieving my goal. But you've really got to, I think, set some goals that scare you a little bit, or you're uncomfortable with a little bit, And the reality is, if you come up short, Grant Cardone has a big 10x push, but I found more of a 3x, 4x. He's a little intense for a lot of people, a little intense for me. But realistically, I have kind of found that setting my goal and then maybe 2x or 4x in that.
Exactly.
Right is my moonshot. That's my big goal. And then if I come up short, I'm happy with it. It's really not hitting the number; it's the process.
Yeah.
Right. Getting yourself trained in setting a goal, in setting a plan, having an action plan, and taking daily steps to achieve that goal. The goal itself doesn't matter that much, right? Because you're going to hit it or you're going to miss it. You're going to adjust. But having kind of a action plan and a timeline lets you know if you're on track, whether you need to step up your mailings or marketing.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to lower the goal really, but you certainly want to attack it with a plan and not just wish it, like I wish I could make $1 million a year, right? Well, what's your plan, right? How much is that a month? How much is that a quarter? How much is that a day? And how many hours are you going to throw out, or what activities are you going to take to hit that goal? So I think that's what's key for me.
What do you typically do? Are you setting quarterly goals and then you're tracking it across the weeks? Are you setting them typically yearly? Then you'll break them down into quarterly goals. How do you sort of go about that? Exactly.
So we set them yearly, we break it down to quarterly, and then we break those quarterly goals down to monthly. And then and then it gets harder, like weekly.
Yeah.
We try to break it down weekly, but obviously, you might sell 3 properties in one day and then nothing for 10 days.
Yeah.
So the weekly part of it is hard, which I think in any industry, sales, right, is it's hard to there's a lot of ups and downs, right, of your transactions per month. You might sell nothing all week, and then people are home on a Sunday and 3 people buy properties on a Sunday.
Yep.
So the weekly part of it's hard, but I think getting to monthly is probably more realistic.
Yeah, we do the exact same thing here inside of REI Conversion. So we set quarterly goals just the way you do, and whatever metrics you have, you set those goals. And and let's talk about your planner here in a second. And then, we do the same thing, like quarterly, and then every month we will start tracking. We'll set monthly goals as well. From that quarterly goal, we'll divide it up. And then every week we have a team, we call it a scorecard meeting here every Mondays, and we go through and we revisit those numbers. And there's something to do with this psychological side of things, that you're constantly looking at those numbers, and it, in a weird way, it just kind of holds you to it. It's one thing to just set goals and then, you revisit it. So, a year later, quarter, 3 months down the road. But when you're consistently looking at that, even though, you're setting high goals, for some reason, it puts you on that track, and it makes you realize, right? It's in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
I have to meet these numbers. I have to meet these numbers. I have to get to these numbers. So there's a lot of value in that. Just even writing it down, I think. And I think a lot of people sort of just kind of go with it and see how, you just kind of go with the whim of things. And I think that's great if that gets you started, but soon enough, you won't want to put yourself accountable to some sort of a planner, some sort of a goal setting, some sort of a tracking to see how you're doing. Now, let's come to your planner here, and I've got it pulled up. And this is something we're going to share also as a downloadable for the show. If you go over to reiconversion.com/REICON, CON041, this is episode 41. Travis has shared his planner, and actually the one he's given me right now it's a little bit more on the detailed side, and it fits a little bit better for what he's doing. But we're going to simplify this a little bit as well. But can you sort of walk us through a little bit as to what's on this sheet here?
Yeah, so I start out with what's our target net goal. Okay, that's what matters, right? Net and profit are what matter.
Yeah.
So we set that target goal, and then we determine, if we want to make, $500,000 for the year, then we determine, I'm just going to use easy math here, right? So you go, if we're trying to make 50,000, which isn't probably realistic for land deals, we're not trying to make $50,000 a transaction. Let's say we're going after $25,000 a transaction. Then that would mean we need to do, 20 transactions, right? So we need to do 20 transactions in a year. So we break that up into a quarterly or monthly transaction per quarter, transactions per month based on our net per transaction. And that kind of gives us our target, number of transactions. Now, obviously, you can put it on the spreadsheet and it's great, but the sellers don't always want to sell at your target strike price, right? And buyers don't always want to buy. So there's obviously some variance between what you're purchasing at and what you're netting. Some you make more on, some you make less, but this is just, it's just that it's a planner, right? It's to get you started. And you're going to come in under transactions some year and over transactions, but it's a good starting kickoff point. But so once we know how many transactions we want to do per year, per quarter, per month, and how much we want to make, then we start to look at, okay, we kind of know because we have some historical data to reference for our forecasting, right? When you're starting out new, you have no idea, do I need to send 500 letters or do I need to send 5,000 letters to get a deal? And that's going to vary based on if you're trying to make 1,000 on a flip or you're trying to make 20,000, you're going to have to send more letters. So the yield is the hard part, right? The yield is kind of trickier, but we work in some of the same areas we've been in for a number of years, so it is a little more predictable for us. So based on our historical yield, how many letters per deal we need to send out, right? Yep. We now know that, all right, we've got to send out 1,000 or let's say 1,500 letters per deal. We multiply that, and of course the planner, the sheet does it for us, times our target number of transactions per year, right? Times how many letters per deal. Yep. And that gets us in the ballpark of how much mail we need to send. Yep. Now you almost always need to send more than your calculator, your profit forecasting tool tells you, right? But it's kind of a good, get you in the ballpark. Anyway.
So when you're reviewing, so this is an annual planner, right? And when you're sort of reviewing how you're performing, let's say you have a sheet, that, but week by week, what are you typically recording? Are you recording how many mailers you've sent out that week, or how many properties you've acquired that week? What is it that typically that you'll sort of look at on a weekly basis then?
Yeah, so what we look at weekly is usually the marketing, the sales side, right? Because usually entering a new year, we already have properties purchased, properties bought, properties for sale. So we are, constantly trying to sell and sell those properties, right? But then at the same time, we're working in parallel on acquisition of new ones. So there's no gap in between, right? So, and that's where, it's a good time to plug your product, your Pebble, right? That's where the ability to send mailing campaigns with a daily drip rate versus, sending 1,000 or 10,000 all at once and being flooded with inbound calls. Whether you're filling them or a call center, it all comes at once, if you send the mail once. So the ability to set my drip rate at 50 letters or 100 letters a day, kind of gives me some predictability to how many letters I'm going to send per month. Yeah. Now that also allows me, using Pebble to stack campaigns. Like right now, if you looked in the Pebble, I'm probably running 3-4 campaigns, each one sending out 50 to 100 letters per day. Yeah. So by doing that, I now know how many letters the next 30, 60 days I'm going to send out, right? And then if the yield lines up, if I'm getting deals at the same rate as I thought I was, then, I know I'm on track. If I'm not, then I know I'm not offering, enough, right? I'm coming in too low. I can adjust that offer. Right. In the area, or I can kind of adjust my mailing based on if I'm getting those deals at the rate we thought we would. At the same time, always pushing and working the selling, right, side of it. So that's the trouble with sometimes getting started. It's overwhelming for people at first because you really almost run two separate businesses. Your buying side and your selling side. So it's tricky, but there's a lot of inertia involved, right? If you can get it all going and moving early on. Once you get the machine going, it really does become easier, it's become easier. And then you start to have repeat buyers. And that's kind of where we're at, right? As you start to get the sales side figured out. Right. You start to outsource some things and it gets easier. But yeah, we're always checking in and adjusting, and really when you aren't hitting your numbers, it's usually more because, like you said, with the planning and goals, right? It's whatever gets your attention, right? So if you take your attention off of sales for too long, focusing on acquisition and mailers, right? Then you're not going to meet those sales goals. You might be buying up a bunch of properties, and you're right, but meanwhile you've still got others that you need to sell. So it's a balancing act of giving your, toggling between one and the other on acquisitions and disposition side of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't pretend to have that all figured out. I mean, that's I say it's more just we're monitoring it, right? We're monitoring it daily. We know the pulse of it, so we're familiar with it. But we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But
Sure.
we do stay involved,
And I think this will definitely make a lot of sense too when you guys sort of grab the annual planner to see how sort of Travis does his breakdowns to plan for the year, and then you can go from there and start figuring out what would you like to track, what metrics make sense for you to track. And I encourage all of you guys that are listening to really sort of see if you can set a day out of the week, and we do this with internally as well. We set an hour to kind of, well, we don't do that for the whole hour, but we do go over our numbers every week. Again, it just sort of sets the whole team on the same page. Now, you may not, you probably don't need to do it with your team, but even with yourself, and maybe you have a partner working on this with you, I think it's super important. And we didn't start doing this until really fall of this year, and one of our coaches really pushed us to that point. And yeah, it's been eerie. We've been sort of meeting our goals, and when you put it out there, here we go, getting all woo-woo again. But I'm a total believer in putting that stuff.
It sounds woo-woo if you haven't done it, and I'm trust me, I'm not big into meditation. I'm not woo-woo, and what it is though you start to hear the same thing over and over again from credible sources, right? So you read a lot of business books, listen to a lot of heavy hitters, some billionaires, right? And these people start saying the same things over and over again, right? Once there becomes a pattern, it becomes pretty easy to reverse engineer things. So when you start hearing that, 97% of billionaires write their goals down daily, right? You know what I mean? Then you go, okay, there's something to that, I think where the woo-woo is, or the secret part of it is you have to take action to reach those goals. So I think the idea that you're going to attract wealth in your life, or you're going to attract land deals, right, into your life without taking action is
there has to be an action.
There has to be an action plan, and you've got to follow it, right?
Absolutely.
It's not going to come to you, but you do have to write it down. You do got to get consistent with it.
For sure. And for those of you that are, scared to take action, and I know there's a lot of people that overthink a lot of things. If you're new into Pebble or want to try Pebble, we've got a 14-day free trial at this point in time of the recording. I don't know if we're going to be changing or increasing that or decreasing that. But anyways, at the time of this recording, feel free to come into Pebble. And one of the really cool things is, someone like Travis is also one of sort of our community leaders, where he's open to help others. We sort of created him a subgroup inside of our community to talk about acquisitions and mailers. And, if you're scared to take action, this is really where, the start of land investing is really getting those mailers out, and there's really no other way to kind of get this machine rolling other than get those mailers out. And I know a lot of people get hung up on actually sending out those mailers. It's probably one of the biggest things that hang a lot of people up from even getting started. So, while we have you on here, we sort of talked about goal setting, and that was the bigger picture side of things. And again, I want you guys to have a look at that planner that Travis has put together. But I also want to dive a little bit into the mailing section. We brought you on the Pebble Mastermind for just our Pebblers to talk about mailing and what you've done, because you're doing a lot of mailing. For those that are struggling with getting their mailings out, I guess first of all, what do you sort of have to say about getting their mailings out there in general, I guess?
I would say, there's no better time to come into it than now. We're all very fortunate. We're very lucky that with recent release of tools and data sources and stuff, there's just no better time, right? Even starting 6-7 years ago when I did, there was way less data sources, specifically with filtering for vacant land, right? So it was harder to get data sources. So anyway, I would say don't make excuses because the data sources are out there now. It was much harder. We used to buffer county GIS parcel search websites and build our own manual Excel sheet, right? Before you could guy off the street buy a data membership, right? So there's some great sources out there. Prycd.com, prycd.com. These guys have built a tool, all-in-one acquisition tool that is basically they're a reseller of data tree data. But what they've built it specific for, now they do houses also, but they've built a specific for land where you have an interface where you can quickly, research an area. You can set your scrub filters, for land. And if you know what you're doing, you can have a scrubbed filtered list in 10 minutes. If you're new to it, might take you 20, 30 minutes watching videos and stumbling around, but you can pull a list. That's where it all starts. Right.
Right.
And I'd say starting with the right tools, so I think that's the best tool out there right now for downloading your list.
Yep.
And then they also have a feature where if you know what offer percentage, if you're sending blind offers where you're including a price, they have a slider tool where you can say I'm 25%, 40% of market value based on data tree market. So it'll price your offers for you, so it's not a magic button, right? You want to check, but really they've got a huge comp database over there, Zillow and Realtor.com, Lands of America. So all the stuff I used to manually do, go look for comps when I'm pricing things, is built into that. So that's what I use right now to pull my list. And then, obviously I'm using Pebble to mail my list. For those that aren't familiar with it or haven't went through the pain of, scrubbing lists within Excel, once you get your mailing list, you generally used to have to go through all your filters and scrub out all these duplicate owners, scrub out all these. I spend 5 to 7 hours per mailer in Excel scrubbing my list and then pricing it as well, based on offer percentage, price. I can do the same thing in 5 minutes on Price.com with the mailing list. So that takes care of the data part of it. Then getting it in the mail, you used to have to, get your Excel data set to talk to your Microsoft Word letter template and do a mail merge, then print that to PDF, upload it to the mail house. Well, now with like a Pebble, I'm just importing that Prycd.com data set, mailing list, we'll call it, or data tree mailing list. You've got templates for those. I'm just importing those and mapping the merge fields, or for those people aren't familiar with the merge fields, the Dear Mr. Owner, instead of Mr. Owner, it's going to have first name. It's going to have our offer price. It's going to have acreage, property address. It's going to have everything specific to the property, but bringing that into Pebble, is you don't have to perform a mail merge. So that's huge. So I really like you say, me being on Pebble, I'm happy for free. If somebody gives Pebble a try, jumps in the forum, asks a question, I'm going to answer your question for free. I'm going to tell you, I don't do everything right, but I'm going to tell you based off my knowledge and, my experience, what I would do or how I would do that.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of have a leg up in that you have some resources here, and there's some great new tools out, yours being one of them, to pull the list and then getting the list in the mail same day. On a consulting call, my wife and I do some consulting. In an hour, I could take somebody, if they have a phone number, right, to receive phone calls back from, and they have a PO box to receive letters back. If they have those two things ready, in a 1 hour consulting call, I can have a list pulled, scrubbed, priced, uploaded, and mailed, right? Using Price and Pebble, which is crazy.
Yeah.
This used to be lock yourself in a dark room type of thing for a weekend.
Yeah.
And do so.
I think you're definitely in a position where you're feeling the major differences between having to do it the old way and hiring people to. I used to hire people to build scripts to scrub the GIS and what Price is doing is awesome now. And I'm gonna have those two. Well, I think it's Max over at Price. It's Pryced, and I'll include that in the show notes as well. And
Prycd.
CD, sorry.
And they actually have a forecasting tool. We talked a little earlier about the the planning out your mailer. They've built, I mean, I did mine on Excel or Google Sheet, right? These guys obviously are programmers, right? They built a profit forecasting tool that's free to use on their website. If somebody's looking at sending out a mailing campaign and you
Right.
just want to play with what's this going to cost me, for the campaign, what will my net or my yield be on it? It's a good resource or tool to have too.
And I'll include that. I know you put that together as part of the downloadable, so I'll include that for others to see and really appreciate that. Um, One of the really things that we get asked a lot when it comes to mailers, and just because you do so much in mailing, we have a lot of people who sort of say, well, what about windowed versus handwritten? I'd love for you to share that story. And it was a funny story that you shared with us in our mastermind. Can you sort of revisit that and what you sort of learned from mailing, crazy looking envelopes to just regular envelopes?
I can, and I'll try to not go off on too long a tangent. I know this is 25 minute show, right? But
no, that's okay.
Really, what it is, I think sometimes it's human nature to overcomplicate things, right? And to think there's more to it than there is. So this even happened to us after our business was established, where I was really ready to take the business to the next level, right? And instead of sticking with what was working, right, which was just blind offers and double window envelope, I thought, I went through a couple other courses about direct mail, and they really made it sound like it was an art. This outer, I call it in the direct mail world, they call it outer envelope strategy, right? How the outside of the letter looks is key to your, they reference open rate and acceptance rate, but having been through it all, you realize open rate is assumed. You have no idea if somebody's opening a letter. Honestly, how would you ever track that metric, right? You have no idea if somebody's, all you can track is response rate. Okay, so we agree to track the response rate. Well, anyway, we spent a lot of money, time, effort, and energy, having the outer envelope design would look very personable from our family, handwritten. We even went down the road of handwritten, and this is after sending everything, automated. We were trying to try to pivot and do larger deals and move to more personable letters. And this is widely used in the house world, right? Because so much direct mail sent out. So we moved to handwritten letters with these first class mail, 2-page letters, handwritten with all this outer envelope art, I would call it. It looks like you're getting a Christmas card from a family member, right? People open it, and we tracked for, like 9 months, we tracked tens of thousands of units of mail. And the acceptance rate was, it was sliver, it was just ridiculous. The acceptance rate between our double window blind offer, it just looks like junk mail. The acceptance rate between that and this fancy art piece of direct mail that we were paying, up to 80 cents per unit, right? To get to people. So the good thing that came out of that, though, it wasn't a completely lost, right, case study, is if you look back on it, for us, the thing was, it didn't matter. So it even had me look into, does this matter? Do I need to send a 2-page letter versus a 1, right? And do I need to send first class versus standard class? So our takeaway, we started testing after this. We just started testing standard class, which we know, right, can be 15 cents cheaper a letter per unit. And then 1-page instead of 2-page, which can be about a dime, cheaper for 1-page. And again, almost no difference in acceptance rate and sending a 1-page blind offer versus a 2-page. So you're saving a nickel to a dime a letter right there, and then sending standard class and not first class. Because the reality is when we send first class, we get all this return mail. And if you have all the time in the world, or you have a team to, go through these and skip trace these and go down that road, you could probably get some deals out of it. But that's, it didn't. We just end up with totes and totes of return mail that we weren't doing anything with, right? So anyway, we moved to the takeaway was we moved to 1-page blind offer letters in a double window envelope, sending them out, at about 50 cents a letter, through you guys. And yeah, so it's crazy. What I think it is that there's some educators or gurus or consultants, people out there that they want you to think it's more complicated than it is. So I think trying to sell that the direct mail part of it, you've got to create this art piece to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
I think they want you to buy into that, and the reality of it is getting mail out. That's what's important today, right? Taking action, getting a list pulled, getting it in the mail, and then sending multiple campaigns, even if they're not big ones. That's what's gonna give you ROI or yield. Not spending your time and energy. This kind of segues into the 80-20 principle, right? Of you don't want to spend your time on these high effort, low reward activities like direct mail artwork. Okay, that just does not matter. If you increase your offer percentage from 25 to 35%, that's what's going to yield more deals and get a higher acceptance rate, not how personable your logo looks on the outside of your letter. Although, our King family logo looked pretty beautiful on the outside of our letter. It's laughable now to think about it when people talk about open rates.
Right.
How would you ever track an open rate, response rate, and not even just response rate, acceptance rate is what matters.
Right.
So that's kind of our takeaway from that. Is I feel at this point we have it pretty nailed down. Now I can't speak to the housing world because we haven't bought houses via direct mail yet. That's on our radar this year, actually. So that might be a completely different, scenario. But for land, it really doesn't matter that much. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but if I could save a lot of people time, on that portion of it, and tell them that's not really what matters. Maybe picking a diverse markets, 2-3 different counties or markets, and 2-3 different campaigns is more important than split testing 2 or 3 different direct mail pieces. It's not like a email campaign or digital marketing where you can track the clicks, right? Open rate on a MailChimp campaign or something like that. Offline direct mail is hard to track. So we spent way too much time on that, lost a lot of revenue that year because we weren't doing deals. We were handwriting. My poor wife was handwriting everything, and we collectively decided that we would share our agony and pain with everybody else so they don't go through that.
So there you go. Travis and his wife have literally done the split testing for you guys. I think if there's anything to take away from this podcast, and you shared a lot of little gems here and there, but I think a big theme of it is really just getting action and getting moving. I tell a lot of people there isn't isn't really a magic formula. I mean, there isn't a magic secret sauce to land. And I speak to a lot of land investors, and the thing that I see the most with the successful people in land investing that have been doing it for 5+ years or whatever it may be, it seems that you guys are just consistently doing it. That I don't know how else to kind of put it. I mean, that it's maybe it's oversimplifying it, but it seems to be, one of the secret sauces is just getting your butt out there and taking action. And funny enough, that's one of the things that trip a lot of people up in this business, and I guess in any other business, is really just taking action. So
sometimes you have trouble doing that yourself. That was me. I went through 3 educational courses, spent 9 months listening to podcasts. And I think it just got to the point where my wife was done hearing me talk about it. Right. And literally our first couple of deals was we prior to sending direct mail is we bought some properties on Bid for Assets, an online auction site. Right. How about you? I think, out in Washington, we bought some lots out there, and it was because I was telling her about it and I'm showing her the site. She's like, you click the buy now button. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I can resell it. And she's like, so sometimes you need a push, sometimes if you can't take action yourself. And that got us going because the direct mail piece at the time, was so hard for me getting the list. You used to have to go to the counties directly and they didn't know what you're talking about. So anyway, if you can't take action, find that accountability partner or buddy, whether it's your spouse or somebody else that you're going into this with, and have them hold you accountable, and then as you start to do some deals, you'll find things that resonate with you, and you'll find your own little way to differentiate where everybody's not doing it differently. We found I really enjoy subdividing, properties. And we've also found, that we're able to, from one accepted deal, we're able to split and turn that into 3 properties.
Right, right.
Right. So you're going to find your own play. Not everybody, although everybody's kind of in the same space of land investing, you're going to build your own playbook and find your way of doing it, and that's what I think has made us different is that, especially like the subdividing and then seller financing, we capture all this equity when we buy it way below market price,
Right,
and
right.
then we force appreciation by subdividing and splitting the property. We subdivide a 40 acre into 20 and 2/10. So we've now forced appreciation because it, costs more. Lower acre properties cost more dollars per acre, right? And then we sell the seller financing at 10% interest. So we're getting that interest income. So it's like a triple play, right?
Right, 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 right.
That's not something I learned in an educational course. That's just something we tried. We just
Yeah.
had a 40 acre and it had road access on 2 sides. So we said, hey, this would split nice. Why don't we try this? And then it became a huge part of our business. And also when you talk about doing transactions, right? You're purchasing one, but then you've now created 3 on the sell side, right? It's the whole, buying by the case, selling by the bottle mentality. So I think you're going to find your own way, but you can't find that unless you get started, right? That's the biggest
Absolutely.
thing. The biggest part is getting started in this and not being discouraged if your first campaign doesn't work, right? You might not get lucky on the first one or the first 2, but that consistency you're talking about,
Yeah.
that consistency and persistence, right? If you got enough desire there to build that income outside your job or whatever you're doing, whether you're trying to quit your job or just trying to build a second income, if you got enough desire there, if you just have consistency and persistence,
Yeah.
you're gonna achieve it because the business model works. It's been validated
Yeah.
over and over,
And sometimes, when you have a plan, even a rough plan or a goal, that gives you a lot of momentum to get started as well. So I appreciate you again putting that annual planner. I'm going to make it available if you guys are listening to it on iTunes or Spotify right now, wherever it might be. Head over to reiconversion.com/reicon041. There's going to be a form there that you can fill out with your name and email to get access to our resource library, and you'll find this episode's downloadable inside of our resource library. So Travis, I want to thank you once again for sharing all the gems that you have. I know you're always quietly working in the background. You're not on Facebook. So what if somebody wanted to work with you? How can they work with you, and how can they reach you?
Jesse, on that resource, that downloadable, I gave you a link there. So
Yeah.
I don't promote it a lot. I don't advertise it, but really I created it more just to weed out people. I created a book me page
Gotcha.
for consulting, and where that came from was just I was giving away my time too much for free, and people weren't taking action anyway. So I found really it's not that I need the income. I certainly make way more per hour focusing on our land business. But if I charge for some consulting, I can help people out, and I can also I know that people are serious enough; they're willing to pay a couple $100 even for one session, right?
That's
That
amazing.
they're worth my time,
Yeah.
and I'm worth theirs definitely because I'm going to help them, take action, get going. And for me, that would have been key early on. You could buy all these different educational courses, but you can't get FaceTime, right? Because
Yeah.
at this level or at that level,
Yeah.
their time per hour, you'd have to charge $1,000 an hour, for consulting. So I do, for your listener, obviously if people are on Pebble or using Pebble, hey, you can have my advice for free through the forum there. But if you want a Zoom call or a 1 hour consult or half hour or something, just to get you lined out or started, we do a little coaching consulting. Actually, it's a 2-for-1. My wife does it as well. There's nobody better out there for strategic planning and accountability and goal setting and taking action. You know what I mean? And if you're up at 4:45 a.m., she's available to do a call. Yeah.
I should have had her on the show here with you.
Yeah, you should have. So we both next one, but so we both do a little bit of do the consulting because she has a lot of areas of strength herself within the business. But yeah, Jesse, I'd be happy. I set up a coupon code for REI conversion.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I saw that there.
50% off consulting because, like I say, I'm not in it for the money, but if I can pull people into the REI or Pebble ecosystem, right, then we can build partnerships and friendships
Absolutely.
there. And really, I mean, I remember what it's like to if people are out there working a day job making $50,000-$60,000 a year, that agony, I empathize with that, of trying to find that thing. I mean, hey, I was looking at Amazon affiliate businesses, pooper scooper businesses, right? I mean, the things I was looking into for searching side hustles, right?
I think a lot of people can relate to you about FBA and Amazon. I get it. No, a lot of people
across land investing. So I really do. The main thing is I want it to stick. I want it to work for people. So I'm willing to put a little time and help you. And I also know the more people using Pebble and using your products, right, the better they're going to be, which I'm starting to rely pretty heavily on them as far as my tech stack. Pebble's way up there.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I will make sure to include all of that in the downloadable, so you can grab that in this episode's downloadable. Travis, thank you very much. We'll absolutely be seeing you around inside of our tribe community for Pebble. And thanks again for coming on the show. I'm definitely going to have you back, and perhaps next time maybe you can get your wife on here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
No doubt.
Okay. Thanks very much, Travis.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Before you stop this podcast or head to the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Conversion Podcast. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate an awesome review and rating on whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the REI Conversion Podcast or this specific episode that may help them on their investing journey. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.